Welcome to Living on the Edge with Donna and Frankie, or Frankie and Donna. My name is Donna Feazell, and this is Frankie King, so we're so glad you're listening to us today. How are you doing, Frankie?
I'm doing great.
You had another good week?
I have, because you know why.
Tax time, yay. A lot of good fun. Well, we have a very special guest with us right now, and 30 minutes is just not enough time to talk to Valinda Miracle. And she has written several books, and she has quite a few stories to tell, true stories, and very inspirational. So let's go ahead and get started.
Okay. You want to know?
Yeah, let's talk about your book. The Dead Don't Bleed, Those Who Are Alive Do. Now, how did you come up with this title?
Well, the reason for that title, I survived the flesh-eating disease, necrotizing fasciitis. And the doctors really named the book because after I had the near-death experience and went into the inner chambers of heaven and came back, and I was the only case in history that it was reversed from one day to the next. And they were getting ready to virtually remove my whole left side. And they told me that I probably wouldn't make it out of surgery. They told my family I probably wouldn't make it out, and we were all okay with that, rather than having my whole side removed. You know, it was down my leg and up under my arm, and the only thing they can do is cut away the dead flesh to keep it from spreading to the rest of your body. And so but just prior to me taking me into surgery, I had a visit from Jesus, and he miraculously healed me. And so when they took me in and took the packing out and was getting ready to, and had a whole team of doctors, and I was going to be in surgery for many, many, many hours. And when they took the packing out, they said, oh, and they was, cutting away the dead flesh. They said, oh, look, she's bleeding. That meant I would live.
So that was good news, and that's why you wrote the book, and the doctors actually came up with the title.
For most people, if you're bleeding, that's not good news. But for me, to be bleeding, that meant that I would heal. That was a miraculous recovery. So they just put the packing back in, and I didn't have to have this. I didn't lose my whole left side.
Well, I know we're not here to talk about the book, but I did want to say this. This is a book you can't put down. There are so many stories, and you have so many stories in here of things that happened in your real life that everybody can relate to. You start out with your childhood.
Yes. And, well, a very abusive childhood, and when I was 9 years old, I came home from school and found my mother dead, leaving me and a 2-year-old sister and my father that mother had taken care of all of us, and Dad worked a job, and that's all he did. So I just had to take over where her mother left off, and it was tough as a 9-year-old. It was tough, but it's made me who I am today. Going through the things that I've been through, it's made me who I am today, and more able to go through things. Some people just have a marriage quarrel, and they can't handle it. It just puts them off the deep end. But starting out with my life, just one thing after the other, after the other, after the other has prepared me. So there's no big things anymore. I can be prepared to handle them. And
so
that's
I bet it gets to you
about.
when somebody says, "Oh, I broke a fingernail." I bet you look at them like, "What?" I've done a lot more than breaking a fingernail, right?
I got a paper cut.
Yeah, paper cut.
And so, but that's what this book is about, is that no matter what situation you're in or going through, I probably have been there in some form or the other, and it tells how to get through it. And not that I'm any authority, the Lord knows I'm not, but just if you've been through it, you understand and are able to help others. And somebody told me a long time ago, whenever you go through something, it prepares you to reach back and help those others coming through the same thing. And when you're going through catastrophes, if you can just manage to get through it and realize that you can help someone else. Sometimes that's why we go through things, is to be able to help others. It's not that, woe is me, I'm going through this. I think it's so we can reach back and help others along the way that may be going through the same thing. And So, I mean, my book is about a lot of different things. I mean, I had early marriage. I married at 14 and had my first child at 17 and my second one at 19. And then by the time I was 20, my husband brought his girlfriend home and told me he was in love with her. I had 2 babies to raise. But I, when I couldn't feed them with one job, I would get another job, and I had as many as 4 jobs at one time.
Made it happen.
To take care of my babies. And we just kind of grew up together. We had a lot of fun times, a lot of sad times, but a lot of fun times. And we teaching them to be men. And so my grandpa was instrumental in that, taking them out hunting and fishing and doing those sort of things. And I sometimes wonder how I managed to do all that, because they both played sports and on 2 different teams, and I was there for every practice, every game, and I think, how did I manage? But it was the grace of God that I managed.
That's right. Well, let's talk to some of those moms that are out there and they're struggling right now, and they're raising the child by themselves. How do you keep motivated? How do you keep going?
Well, my children motivated me, because by me losing my mom at such an early age, I prepared my children at a very young age to care for themselves, how to fix a meal or wash a load of clothes or do the house. I wanted them to be prepared if something happened to me tomorrow, and it's not a morbid thing, but if something happened to me, they would be prepared, and it prepared them for marriage. And I see the young mothers now, and they say, "Oh, well, I can't work. I have a baby." I said, "I had 2 babies, and I worked, and God blessed me with daycare centers and babysitters, and so that I could. But if you want to, you really want to, you can. I mean, but you have to have. But sometimes our parents sometimes jump in and take care of everything, so we don't have to. But I had no one to turn to. So I didn't have any choice. My children were dependent on me. I was their sole support. I had to take care of them, and that's what kept me going. Is my children,
and they keep you going to this day.
Yes, they do. They do. They all sent me flowers yesterday for Valentine's Day, and I thought, oh, how sweet. And I didn't send anybody a card or anything. I was busy. But they sent me flowers, and they're precious. And I have a little granddaughter now. And she's so precious, and those children will keep you going, and when you think you can't get up. Mommies just don't have a sick day.
That's right. There's no time out for mommy. Now, you've written another book, The Little Ones. You want to talk about that?
Well, this one, this is all true story. Everything in here is true and facts. But this one is a vision that God gave me. And it's the sweetest vision. I'm a potter, and I make pottery, and we have it sitting all over the shop now. And that's what I was doing just prior to coming over here. I was making goblets. And I had a vision of pottery being all over the shop. I would work that day, and there's, anywhere from platters to bacon cookers, egg scramblers, and batter bowls, and all just sitting all over the shop everywhere. And now in this vision, God showed me that my pottery was there, and I got up in the night and went out to the pottery shop, and the moon was coming in, the moonlight was shining in, and it lit up everything because I didn't have the lights on. And I heard this little noise. And I said, Lord, what is this about? And there was little footprints all over my pottery. Up one side, down the other, back down, and looked like someone would just jump in the middle and go out the other side, and just all these little footprints, and they were just little tiny footprints. And I said, Lord, what is this about? What are you showing me here? And he said, all those little unborn babies that's never had an opportunity to put their foot down on earth were searching for a place to make their mark, and they have found your pottery. And I want you to tell your story, and I want you to make these pieces of pottery, and he even showed me how to sculpt the little feet,
Mm-hmm.
to make the little footprints to go in these pieces, and
You can see that. It's just precious.
and make these available for the mothers to have something tangible to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have photographs. They don't have a graveyard. They didn't have a funeral, so there's no closure. And so these mothers need something tangible, rather than just shove it back like it didn't happen. Like
Just
I
to
had
think whether
to.
someone maybe have had an abortion, or somebody who just lost a baby.
If they've had an abortion, if they lost a baby, they had miscarried, someone kicked them in the stomach and they lost their baby. And to get through with not being bitter at that person that caused it, or at God, or blame themselves. Women are just so bad to blame themselves no matter what. They blame themselves
Always
for
our
what's
fault.
happened. Yes. And this gives them closure, something to hold on to, and what is the beautiful thing about it? The little babies are doing the talking. Well, you can see them here on the front. The little babies are doing the talking. And it talks about, in my big doctor voice, and whenever I was in my mother's stomach, "Oh, Mommy, I'm sorry, I kicked you when I stretched and when I was yawning. I didn't know I was hurting you." And we're all, Jesus is our teacher now. And we can't wait for you to get here and see what all I've learned. I've learned to do this and this and this, and Jesus teaches us. And we can't wait for you to get here, Mommy, because we can join and Jesus can teach you too. And it's just, it's the sweetest, most healing little book. And it's, even though it's fiction, God gave me the whole vision of every bit of it, just laid it out like a puzzle. And I just had to simply put the pieces back together. And that's how he does.
And so that's the little footprints on your pottery.
Aren't they precious?
Well, let's talk for a moment about making pottery. And
Okay.
the craft that you have that you never had before until an accident.
Well, I didn't know that I had any artistic ability. I was in corporate world. I worked for a multi-billion-dollar corporation and didn't know I had any artistic ability at all until I had a
Well, they kind of
automobile
siphon that out of you sometimes. I've been there.
And I had a bad automobile accident, had a closed head injury, and lost all short-term memory. I was like an Alzheimer's patient. And the doctors would say, "Well, you'll never get any better. You just continue to get worse. Might as well put you in an institution." And I would hear the word institution. I'm saying, "Where's the door at? I'm getting out of here." Because I would pick up on a few things, but not much. I couldn't read 3 words and tell you the first word, or I couldn't tell you any dates, or I couldn't drive a car because I couldn't remember to turn left or right, and then I would get into a full-blown panic attack. Or maybe I'd be scrambling myself an egg, and I would be outside and the house would be ablaze. Or maybe run some water back in the bedroom, and it's out on the floor. So I virtually had to have a keeper 24/7 just to keep me out of trouble. So I had a dear friend come to me one day and said, "Valinda, I can't stand seeing you this way." And I said, "I don't like it too good either." And she said, well, she was a counselor at school. And she said, "Well, sometimes you can use the artistic side of your brain and it'll trigger your memory." And I said, "Well, Linda, that's a lovely thought, but I don't have any artistic ability. I can't draw a stick man." She said, "Oh, everybody has talent. It's just hidden." And I said, "Well, mine's hidden real good out under a big rock somewhere because it's never come forth." And she said, "Well, I've scheduled a pottery class. I want you to come go with me, and I'll drive you."
And you'd never done anything like this ever?
No. I said, "Pottery?" I said, "Is that where they work with clay?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Oh, well, come to think of that, I used to make little wares and put them out around the mud puddle that we had when I was a little girl." And I said, Mother used to spank me for messing up my clothes, and so I'd make those little things. And I said, I might like that. That might be the thing. So she took me to class, and the teacher was on those old kick wheels, that body powered. Mine are electric these days, but the ones we learned on were body powered. And Excuse me, I just got to get a
That's
sip of water.
okay, we understand.
Thank you. Oh, it's all right.
No, that's fine.
But we went to class, and she said, Valinda, you'll never be able to do this. And I said, well, I don't know. I make one or two little pieces, you know. And she said, well, you're not going to be able to do this. And I thought,
never say never to a woman, right?
and I thought, you know, my brain ain't working too good, but my hands are still working okay. And so I worked really hard to make these pieces, and I think if I make one, I can make more. You just don't know me how.
Well, why did you think you couldn't do it? Was it physically, or you just didn't have the talent?
I just didn't have it.
Oh.
And so, but I
How many times do we women hear that?
I
That we just don't have it, and you just still do it.
I just loved it, and I had to support my habit, see, because I had lost everything I had from the wreck. I had a very lucrative job with an expense account in a company car, and a very lucrative job, and I went from that to nothing, zero, zilch. And so I wanted to make some more pots. So I'd wear out the clay that I had, and I just needed to buy some more clay and some glaze so I could fire them up and make them look pretty. And so I started selling the few pieces I had. I opened up a little bitty tiny shop in Mentone, the tiniest shop in Mentone. I opened it up so I could sell my wares. And people came in, and they was just gathering them up, and they'd had them all, and they said, I want to buy these, please. And I know, look. He said, well, they are for sale, aren't they? And I said, well, kind of, sort of. They were my babies. But I knew right away that I had to sell them so I could buy some more clay and more glaze and make more. And so I would work 12, 14, 16 hours a day just making those pots. And I was having such a good time because I was out of trouble. See, nobody was yelling at me because I was setting the house on fire or getting lost or doing all these crazy things that Alzheimer's patients do. And I truly understand Alzheimer's patients. I know where they're coming from, and it breaks my heart when I see them, because they repeat the same things over because they're living in the past, and that's all they remember. And my kids would say, Mom, you just told me that. Mom, you just told me that. Well, you just told me that. I say, you know, and it's so heartbreaking for the person, but not to speak of the people that in your family that loves you and sees you that way. But I started just making pots, and people kept buying them and buying them and buying them, and I couldn't make enough. And even the teacher walked in one day, and she said, oh, Valinda, you don't have any business having a shop. You're just not good enough. And I said,
goodness gracious.
Oh, yeah, and you sure don't need to call yourself a potter. I said, I don't even call myself anything. And I said, they don't care. They just like my pots.
They like it, don't they?
And I said, they keep buying them as fast as I can make them, and they don't know that I'm not a potter. I don't think they care. And so it just grew and grew and grew, and I had some people in the shop yesterday and was telling me, Valinda, do you know that your pots are literally all over the world? And I said, yes.
They are.
And it's so humbling to me. It makes me feel about this tall to know that God took nothing, just a piece of clay, and reformed and reshaped me into someone that can make these beautiful things that brings joy to people's homes. I had some people in there, they said, oh, you remember we were in here and we bought that great big piece that you made that you said was one of your favorites? Well, it adorns our coffee table now. It's one of our prized possessions. And another lady from Texas bought one of my Indian pieces, and it went to Texas and survived the flood out there. And she sent me photographs, and she said, it was my most prized possession. And I'm so humbled by that, because we sign it with a cross, and we simply put miracle on it, because it's a miracle that I can make pottery. And then the year, and if the world stands, these pieces will still be there. I've had people tell me that they survived, their dinnerware survived the hurricane when they had nothing else. Some people in Mentone burned their house, and lost everything they had, except they picked up their pottery and washed it, and were able to continue using it. That is,
Well, it has a meaning and it has a purpose as well. I mean, what are you going to think? You see those little cute baby breads. Now, where's your shop located?
We're on Highway 117 in Valley Head, Alabama, 7871. Highway 117 in Valley Head, just 2.5 miles from Mentone. And we've been there about 20 years now, and we started in the backyard, and it's just grown and grown and grown until we have several employees now and work, and we can't make enough pots still.
Well, what do you say to somebody that's lost everything? It could be due to an illness, or it could be an accident like you had. What do you say to that person that say, I'm at the bottom, there is no way I can climb out of this?
Well, you can't go down any further. Like when I was making that clay, it was on the wheel head, and it couldn't go down any further. So it had to come up. When I put pressure on it, it had to come up because it couldn't go any further. And that's what I say to you. If you can't get any lower, you have no place to go but up. But just don't give up. Keep on keeping on. And God in His sovereignty, if you trust Him, He'll bring you back up. He won't leave you there alone. And sometimes we have to stay there to learn who we are and what we need to do.
You think we move too fast sometimes? That we're in a situation and we don't know what to do, and you just jump on the next bandwagon that comes. Is that when we mess up sometimes?
I think so. I think that sometimes we need to stay there just a bit and before we start to come up out of it, and trust God. And but we have a tendency, oh, I can do this, I can fix this. But we can with God's help, but we cannot do it by ourselves. I don't think anyone can, and if we didn't have Jesus, I don't know, people that don't have Jesus, I don't know how they make it, because I could have not made it one step. And every day that I was making those little pieces of pottery, pulling those little pieces of pottery up, He was restoring me, bringing me back to where I needed to be, giving me my memory back. And now I'm fully functional now that I wasn't. I mean, I didn't want to be.
So you surprised a lot of people.
Yes.
Even the teacher.
Oh, yes.
Especially the teacher.
Yes. But she was a perfectionist, and I was not making them to her standard. But I have made my own standard now, and people seem to like it. They're not perfect. They never will be perfect because they're made one piece at a time with a piece of clay on the wheel, one piece at a time, just like us. And they're all different. Every single piece is different.
Like we are.
All of us are different. We're different colors, we're different sizes, we're different shapes, just like the pieces of pottery. That's how we are. And if you look around in nature, there's nothing perfect. The trees are bent and they're crooked, and the blades of grass are, and even the flowers, they don't grow straight. There's nothing straight about them. And when I was taking art classes, I took 2 one-day art classes and started painting these beautiful, magnificent, inspirational paintings. And she taught me, Valinda, there's nothing in nature that's perfect. You've got to get out of that mold. It can't be perfect. We're not perfect, and your pieces cannot be perfect.
Was this after the teacher that told you you didn't have the talent?
And
so she...
I bet she doesn't have a shop with selling pieces all over the world.
So you had one teacher telling you one thing and the other one telling you something else.
But this one told me with such love, Valinda, that we're not perfect. We're not perfect, and we can't make perfect pieces. And as soon as we understand that, we can move on. And so I think that's why people, they get discouraged and think, well, if I can't do it perfect, I'm not going to do it. And